Welcome everyone to a Writer's Core. It's great to have you with us here again in our third installment, where we are sharing tips and tools on how to become a better writer. If you aren't already a writer, this is a place for you. I'm your host, Jennifer Richards Wilson, and I'm the founder of Activate Core. I'm an ICF transformation coach and an authorpreneur. I am currently based in Suchian, Jiangsu province, and my partner is Nadine K. Thompson, and she'll be presenting some tools and tips on how we can begin our pre-writing and or crafting our ideas and all of that. So tonight, I hope that you are ready to write, to learn, and to expand your knowledge on, of course, writing or become a better writer. So feel free to use the emojis and our chat box or chat room to post your questions and other items that you find interesting. Of course, we'll be able to share and answer your questions at the end of this presentation or as Nadine leads in her interactive session. It's great to have you. Feel welcome. And we're going to be handing over to our presenter for today, Nadine K. Thompson. Welcome, everyone. Great to have you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I hope this session will be of value to you. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. Okay. So I want to start today by asking about your why. So why did you join this workshop? What's your big why? So people can put in the chat their reason for joining. You can just write, why did you decide to join? So I'm not seeing the chat. So Jenny, you can tell me what people are putting there. Is there anything that people are
Nothing
saying?
yet. Nothing yet.
Okay.
That persons are curious as to
Okay.
how to begin the writing process or to craft their ideas. So type in the chat, why are you here?
Yes.
Ishioma says to improve my writing. Kelly
Mm.
says, because I already have a few books in the works. Wow, congrats. This is
Mhm.
great. We really admire persons who are already on the journey. It is a journey, and so we appreciate your presence here. Yes. iPhone, I like writing and I need to write articles for my work. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. So we have a couple of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll just do a short introduction about myself. I think I have lost my screen. Just a minute. Yeah, so my name is Nadine K. Thompson. I'm an author, a teacher, and an NLP coach. I'm passionate about writing and about helping people to share their stories. So, what is my why? I'm reflecting on my own writer's journey. I'm sharing, and I want us to share our varied writing experiences. And at the end, hopefully, we can have a formula for being good writers. So I'll start by sharing my own writing journey. So I am the author of an anthology of poems called Encounters, and I published this in 2020. And I've also done collaborations with other writers. So there are books where they want people to write a chapter, and I've written for 5 different books, 5 different chapters for these books. I'm a teacher in an IBPYP school in Hangzhou, and I'm a certified NLP coach by the ABL NLP Association in the United States. So for me, when I published my first book, people, because I didn't expect, it to have such a ripple effect. So I was here in Hangzhou, and when I published my book, I decided to have a book launch. And when I had my book launch, I noticed that people had many questions. So people came out, I had a really good support, and people were asking me, oh, why did you publish this book? How long did it take you to write the book? Where did you get your ideas from? And then people were also saying to me, they also wanted to write and publish a book. Somebody said, oh, they've been thinking of writing a book for years, and they just didn't think it was possible. So at that point, I realized that a lot of people had this intention, but they didn't know how to go forward. So these are some of the other book collaborations that I've done. I've mostly collaborated on books for women writers. And I did one about writing and publishing because all these authors in this book had the same thing. Many people wanted to know how they craft and published their book. Okay, so what have I learned from writing a book? I had to find my own voice. So growing up, I read many different kinds of books. I love poetry, and at university, I did a course in love, death, and poetry. And I was reading other poets and all of that. But in the end, I had to find my own voice. I had to come up with my own style. So one of the things I did was I did an online poetry writing course. And that helped me to understand different ways of writing poetry. And also this whole thing of cliches, how to not just write the thing that everybody was expecting. So in doing that, I spend time to write. So that is something that we have to do. If this is our genre, we have to spend time on getting to know that genre. Since I've been in China, I attended a silent writers retreat in Shanghai, which was really good, in which we just were using different techniques to get our story out. I also went to another writers retreat. So when you decide to become a writer, you're spending time to write and to be around writers. I also would seek advice from people who had done it before, and I became a member of different writers community, and I'm presently a member of the Hanjo Writers Association. I am the group leader for that group. And I'm happy to see Noma here is also one of our members. So yes, it's good to be in different groups and to write with different people to hone your writing skills. I remember also going to Shenzhen and being part of their writers group and they have weekly writers group and people would come and share their poetry, different writings. This is one way of getting yourself ready and getting yourself into the habit of writing. Okay. So, questions that I had from a lot of newbie writers. How do I start writing? What techniques do you use in your writing? How do you know that your writing is good enough? How long did it take you to write your book? Have you ever asked yourself any of these questions? I'd love to know. Have you ever had any of these questions, or have people been asking you, or have you asked yourself? So you can type in the chat as I continue. So we want people to share as we are going along. So today we want to look at the writer's craft. Yes, so we need to have our why. Why are we writing? So the writer's craft. So what really is this craft? What really is it when we are crafting our writing? So the craft and writing is how to bring forward your writing in a clear and digestible way for the reader. So we do not write for ourselves. We are writing for readers. This is the first thing. You're not writing for you, you're writing for the reader. So how do you present the story so that the reader will love it, will be attracted to it, can digest what you have written? So I want people to write that down, that I do not write for myself, I'm writing for the reader. I'm writing for my audience. So that's the first thing we need to understand. The next thing is, what makes up, so we have some building blocks of this craft. So we have pre-writing, so we are getting our ideas. We can have a flood of ideas, but then we need to research. Research is a big part of a writer's life. You need to know the roots of your story. So what kind of story will it be? Are you going to be nonfiction? Is it going to be fiction? And why, again, are you heading in this direction? So you need to go do some research. Free writing. To start writing, you need to be in the space of just writing freely. So write your draft. Don't think, just write and be in the flow. And then after that, you can edit. Read over, check for everything. Ask someone else to check it. That's very important. We cannot always see our mistakes. And then finally, you can get to the manuscript. The manuscript is not necessarily ready for publishing. You might have to check and recheck many times before it gets to be published. So this is some of the building blocks that make up a writer's craft. So you see, a lot of writing of a writer's craft is actually writing. It's writing, researching, doing it again and again until you've perfected it. Okay, so I want you to share in the chat, what is your experience as a writer, as you've been developing your writing? When what has been your journey in going through this writing craft? So people can put their answers in the chat. Okay, so today I want to focus on pre-writing. Where do ideas come from? Planning for writing, creating the plan, themes and plot, and the middle, what's next, and how to get to the end. Okay, so let's start. So I have been thinking about this question. How do you fill a blank page? How do you fill a blank page? Every piece of writing must suit what it is for. It suits what it's for when, and I want people to just give me one word. So everyone just think of one word that you could put there. So every piece of writing must suit what it is for. It suits what it's for when. So just type your answers in. What are some of the words you think you could put there? When you know your purpose, the feeling, yes. Anything else? People can type, so I want people to type the answers. How do you know that your writing is suiting the purpose? So it's fitting that. How do you begin? So it suits what it is for when I know my audience. When you know your purpose. When it is the story you want to tell. So it could be a phrase. You could say when it is done, when you start, when you get to the climax, when you have that feeling, when others encourage you. Yeah, there are several things you can put there. When do you know? The main subject, yes. When you know the main idea. Yes, thank you. So when do you know? So I want you to keep thinking about this as we go along. We're going to come back to this one. Okay. So pre-writing, what is this? Pre-writing, this is a percolating stage when we gather ideas. And gathering ideas, as a writer, it's good to have a notebook. And it's good to keep this notebook, and everywhere you go, to take notes. Just the other day, I was listening to an interview with this writer, and he is David Williams, and he's written a lot of children books. And they were asking him, where do you get ideas from? And he was saying, okay, one day I was at the airport and I saw this incident happen, and I just thought, okay, I like that. I think that I can turn this into a comic scene in one of my books. And so he noted it down. Or this happened with his kids, and he said, okay, I'm going to put this in. Or so as a comic writer writing for kids, whenever he sees ideas, he says he just makes a note of it. So he could make a note on his phone, make a note in his book. And as he's writing, he's putting these ideas in. So he's getting ideas from people around him, from situations that are happening, from a dream, from personal experiences. And he is trying to use it in a way for his style. So his style is writing funny, not comic, but funny children's book that kids can enjoy. They have varied subjects, but they are very, very funny. So I have this thing. I want to write a romance novel. What are my initial ideas? So yes, if you want to write a romance book, You're thinking of a love story, you're thinking of characters, and you must have that thing. Why are you attracted to this genre? What makes you want to write it? And then you start to think, okay, yeah, I have this idea. I want to, yeah. And so from there, that is a pre-writing. You're already in that stage of beginning your writing because you have some idea in your mind that you want to tell a story. Okay, so you have to first, so the ideas come from everywhere. Ideas come from everywhere. There's no place that a writer can't get ideas from. So if you think about when you're on a train, if it's raining, if you are walking, if you had some experience, whatever it is, how could you put this into your writing? A lot of the poems that I wrote came from experiences that I had. So I was walking home one day and it was raining, and as I stepped on the pavement, the water just splashed into my face, and I wrote a poem about that. So we can write about anything. Yeah, so how do you incorporate these ideas into your writing? So I want people to note these things down. Pre-writing starts with our ideas. Okay, the next part, planning for your writing. So without a plan, it is difficult to begin. A plan gives you a clear path. It does not need to be technical, but it should be straightforward and clear. So, they always say, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. If you're not planning, then what are you doing? You need to have some kind of planning to keep you floating, to keep you going. Because at some point, it's going to become difficult to keep writing. So what is the plan? Okay. So I've used ideas like this, like a triangle. So the top would be my main idea, and then the other two angles are my why and my what. So when I think of what is my underlying main idea, then what is my why? Why am I writing the story? What is the story about? And then in the middle, I can fill my triangle with everything else that comes up. So this is what my story is. So when you've filled everything into the triangle, okay, I can pick up those ideas and I can start writing. So this is one way you can start, just using graphic ways. So use diagrams. So I love to use diagrams to show what I'm doing, show my way of thinking. Some people do doodling. Some people use diagrams. Some people get a piece of paper and they just draw a line in the paper. They fold it and they just, do one line down, one across. They have 4 different boxes and then they put their ideas in. So you need to think of how to represent your ideas when you begin writing. So this is one idea. Another way, you could have this connection of, if you have this connection, how is your story connected? So think of all the pieces in your story. What's the connection? So if you think of the place, you think of the people, you think of the situations, you think of the subject, you think of the feelings, think of everything that could make your story. What's the connection? What's one thread running through your story? So from start to finish, if you can find this golden thread, then you know what your story is going to be about. So find your golden thread. Okay. The next one, you can have it like this. You can plan and write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is how I'm going to do it. This is what I'm thinking of. Chapter 1 is going to be this, chapter 2 is going to be this, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. Yeah, that's a good way too. And you could know in chapter 3, I'm going to put this in chapter 4. Of course, as you go along, ideas will change. This is a plan. Okay, so I want to hear your ideas. What are your planning? How do you plan when you begin writing a story? And this one I have used a lot. It's the spider web. So you're going to write a romance book. You want to write a love story. You're going to put all the themes. So you're going to talk about love. You're going to talk about heartbreak. You're going to talk about getting back together. So on those themes, what are your other things? So the more ideas you have, it's better. So after you've created this, you can group your themes. So where would you put them? So the cafe, what does that have to do with holiday, home, and email? What does this have to do with sports? So you now are going to think which ones can go into which chapter. You know, how do you take this from here and then organize it into chapters? So this is a good way to begin. So I want people to think about it, which one suits you. So we go back, we look at it. Do you think the triangle method is a good way? What about finding the golden thread? Or, listing the plan to put it and to find your chapters, or having the spider web. So you're going to put everything on the paper, group your ideas, and then from that, pull out and then put it into chapters. Okay? So I see people in the chat. Yeah, people said the spider web. So people want me to go to the second one again. Okay, so the second one is the golden thread. Okay, so for the golden thread, it's like you're thinking. You have your characters, you have your themes, you have if you're writing fiction, but so let's say fiction. So fiction story, we have a theme, we have a place, we have characters, we have feelings, everything. What do you think is the underlying thing in the story that is holding the story together? So this would be like the skeleton of the story. What holds this story together? So maybe when you're telling the story, your idea for telling the story is because you want people to know about, for some people nowadays it's popular maybe it was trauma. So your idea is to write a story that the underlying thing is about trauma. So everything in the story holds together because you want to tell it. Maybe the story is about redemption. So everything in the story is leading to that. So the characters are changing and they're going towards redemption. So as you tell the story, this is what is holding everything together. If you take away every part in every chapter, in every character, this must be what you keep, what keeps coming up. Is that clear? Does
Yes,
it help?
indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Edgar is asking, can you go through the second one again? But
Uh-huh.
Edgar is asking you to go through the second one again, and he's asking, is this after you write?
This is before you write. So before you write, you're thinking it through, you're planning. So this is a plan. So it can be before or after actually, but this is before you write, you're trying to make a plan to see what connects my story. So you're thinking before you put anything on paper, how are the characters, how are the themes, how is everything? What's the one main thing that is holding your story together? So if you get to that point of knowing it, then writing your story becomes easier because you know why, you know the what, you know the underlying thing in your story. It doesn't always work because sometimes as you write, because I was listening to the Jamaican writer who got the Man Booker Prize, and he was saying when he started his book, after a while, he hated his characters and he made the plan, he had this idea, but as he was going along, he decided that the story was going to change, and the story changed from what the plan he had, and that happens too. So it's just a technique to kind of know where you're going with the story. But of course, the story can get bigger than you and change and be something different. So that's also possible. But it's just helping, especially new writers, to craft this thing of having a golden thread. Of course, when I did my poetry book, my idea was I had it in 4 parts and I would have different themes. And one theme was, okay, it's all about encounters. So encounters with places, encounters with love and light, encounters. So my underlying thread was encounters. And every part of it was dealing with some kind of encounter. But then when people read the book, they would say, okay, but there are stories about love, there are stories about this, and there's story about, but I didn't, those were other themes that came up, but my underlying thing that was tying everything together was encounters. So that's kind of what I mean by that. Okay. So yeah, so the triangle, the golden thread, the writing the plan, and this one, putting all the ideas out, having this spider web effect, the spider diagram, I think is really good. Okay, so especially with novel writing, we need the roadmap. There must be something you have in mind. So a lot of writers talk about writing a premise, developing the plot line. So you need to have an outline of the plot. You need to have the characters. So each character needs to have a name, then they need to be introduced. You need to know where you're going to take the characters. You need to have a kind of synopsis of what is the story really about? Who are the characters? And then as you go along, you can keep expanding on your characters, expanding on the plot, but at least you have that underlying idea. Okay. So a premise refers to the core structural elements of our story. The premise is the core structural element of the story. So for fiction writers especially, what is the premise of your story? So in simple terms, it's a summary of what our story is about. We can't say we are writing a story and we don't know what it is about. Yeah, we have to be clear. Okay. Then one way of understanding your premise and being able to share your premise is by using what is called an elevator pitch. Have you ever heard of this elevator pitch? Okay, so a lot of business people, and I think they came up with this idea that what if you were in an elevator and somebody said to you, introduce your idea in a short time before the elevator gets, so I live on the 5th floor. Before the elevator gets from 1st floor to 5th floor, can you sell your story in that time? Just in that very short time, give the most important points. So for example, if you in your book, you need to know the problem and the solution. So the element required. So what needs to be resolved in your story? Why would the reader find your story interesting? Is there potential for drama? So if you're writing, especially fiction stories, is there potential for drama, tension, suspense? Is it how do you make it into a page turner? So what are the themes in your story, the central themes? And the solution, if there's a problem, then there must be a solution. And it needs to be clear how you're going to resolve these conflicts, you know? And you can give a few sentences about the major turning point, because when we write a story, we are really attracting people to this. People are attracted to it because maybe it's something in their own lives. So when you put the story out, you need to grab them and hold their attention in this. So this is the elevator pitch. So if somebody came to you and you have a book and they said to you, what is the book about? In one sentence, how could you explain it? So today we would try at the end to practice our elevator pitch. How would we explain our book and share it in one sentence? I attended one workshop and we all had to do this. It's like you had to sit in front of a panel of people and you had to do this elevator pitch. Yeah, it's a very good way to be clear about your story. Okay, and then some of you might have heard of the hero's journey. Have you heard of this hero's journey? So it comes from it's been around in writing for a long time, and the aim of the hero's journey is this. Every hero, whether it's a fiction or non-fiction book, you start out, you're called out to something calls you out, and you meet the mentor, then you are going to cross over into something new. But when you cross over into something new, you're going to face some trials, you're going to go through a lot. But then from there, you gain some skills. And then finally, you're going to go back up now because you go down like into this place of burning, of shame, of everything. Then you start to go back up and then you get to atonement. Then you get the gifts, then you return. But when you return, you are not the same as when you left. So if we think of Harry Potter, each book was building on this hero's journey. You know, as he starts out as a little boy, then he knows he has these magical gifts. Then he goes into Hogwarts, and then that's crossing over. Then he starts facing a lot of trials, a lot of failures, a lot of things happening to him. And then, you know, he meets Voldemort, and then he needs to go back, now fight, and then he leaves, he goes into this place, he fights, then he is the hero, and then he comes back to the normal world. So they say every story actually has this hero's journey. So your hero is going, so you need to show how your hero is growing and changing and learning. They need to go through some steps of getting to what they call redemption, because this is what will attract people to the book, you know? So this hero's journey is very, very important. So have you used your characters in this way? Have you heard of this? Do you know about this? And there are many different, you know, ways of looking at it. People have used this kind of technique in their writing, and it's a lot of myths and mythology. It's based on this thing of the hero's journey. Yes, Jennifer?
You know, when I look at this diagram, I'm reminded that some stories end tragically. We
Mm-hmm.
don't want our hero to die in the end, but that's what
Part of the
is
journey,
really,
yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like my favorite movie, The Gladiator, he died in the end. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes our heroes die in the end, but that adds to the whole essence of the story.
Mm-hmm.
We don't
But
like
but he
when
got but
heroes
he got
die.
atonement. Before he died, he was atoned. So the atonement came,
Yes, yes,
you know,
yes.
yes, and then so he was able to help others, and he got to the place where he dealt with that thing of
Yeah.
losing his
Mhm.
family. Yes. So it's just that they must go through the journey. And so for some people, they because they use this whole story of Rocky too. When he starts out, the first Rocky movie, he is just a nobody. Then he goes into this place where he meets a mentor for boxing. He starts crossing the threshold. He's now going through a lot of failures until he wins this fight and then gets the gift, and then his life changes. So a lot of these, especially adventure stories, present this thing. But whether it's an adventure story or whether it's fiction, nonfiction, you can still have this whole thing of how is the character changing? How are you? Because you don't want to tell a story of just sadness. So when you start with sadness, where are you ending up? You need to take the reader on this journey to see your redemption, to your path to something better. Yeah, so this is why this hero's journey became popular for writers to use. And on the journey, of course, you're going to have whether internal things for helpers, external, but there's always some mentor in the story that guides and that helps you on the journey. Okay. The other one is the diagram of the plot. So we talk about, you know, when we write, we need to have the beginning, the middle, and the end. All three sections of it are very, very important. So you start with, you know, your basic introduction of the story, your setting. What's your setting? What are the characters? Then, as soon as you begin, you have to introduce conflict. You cannot have a story where there's no conflict. There must be something where there's internal conflict, external conflict, something that goes on. We are exposed to that. As time goes on, the conflict goes higher and higher. It goes up. And a lot of people think that the middle of the story is not important. You always talk the beginning and the end, but the middle is a very, very important part of the story. But this is where the action goes to a point. Where are you taking the readers? And if you take them up, then you need to bring them down. So you take them to this point and something happens. And so many times readers will say, I was upset about this thing, you know, I didn't expect the character this to happen. How come? But then the writer skillfully takes you down and then you get to the resolution. So this middle part is actually telling us which direction is the writer going in. So you as a writer need to think carefully when you get to this place, where you're going to take the writer next. If you don't know, then it could be anything. So you have to, either you're going to just go with the characters growing, developing, or you're going to change path. And that's why sometimes a book takes a long time to come out, because the writer is, going through this thing of, where should I take this story? Sometimes it flows, sometimes you're not very sure of where it's going. But you need to find this midpoint and know how to gently take the reader down and get to a resolution. Because the story must come to a resolution. You can't just leave it hanging at the cliff. You need to take us down. If it's a cliffhanger, then there must be a book 2, book 3, or something. So I think for people who have been watching, yes, Jenny?
Yeah, like for some romance novels, it doesn't end with a happy ending.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a real romance novel. If it ends in tragedy, then it's like, oh wow, why did I even read this book in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the resolution is very, very important. We need to come to a point where, yes, this
Mm-hmm.
was really good. And there are so few books now that really have a good resolution.
Yes. And some people, I think, leave it hanging because they're expecting to write a book 2, but then sometimes a book 2 doesn't come for a long time. So unless you're very skillful, like J.K. Rowling, and you're going to make sure as soon as one is done, you have the other one ready, and you're going to keep it for a certain time, then you can't just leave the reader like that. You need to know, the reader needs to know where it's going so that they can resolve it as well. So yeah, so unless you're a serial writer, then how do you end your story? And for nonfiction, do people think that nonfiction, there are conflicts, there are situations, there are things that you need to tie up these loose ends before the story finishes. You need to kind of say to people, what is the message in the story? What you have learned, how the impact of that on your life, and bring it to a close. And if it's a business book, it's the same. What do you want people to gain from reading the book? What are the ideas? What's the premise of the book? So again, we come back to these things. And the first part is going to introduce you, the middle is going to take you into more, and the end is going to bring you to a closing of understanding where the book ends for you. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, so here we can come to a climax. We can understand the hero's journey, and we can decide on the resolution. So this is why the middle is important. So each part is unique and different and important. The middle has its own place, the beginning and the end. A lot of writers now are starting to say they are starting from the middle, which is interesting. They're starting from the middle and then plotting the other things. Yeah, that's also another way of doing it. Yeah. So let's have a try. What's your favorite book genre? Imagine reading this genre. What other information do you need to write about this genre? So we will do a little bit of free writing and a little bit of rewriting. So I want people to think, what is your favorite book genre? Imagine reading this genre, and what information do you need if you are going to write a book in this genre? So I will give people like some time to think. Then I hope people will want to share. You can turn your cameras on, turn your thing on, and share. So I think I will put a minute timer on. You can think about it. Yeah, so what's your favorite book genre? I think I would love everyone to share actually, because we all have a favorite book. We all have something we can think about. So anyone willing to start, or you're still writing? So I will start while people, while you're thinking about it. So my favorite genre is actually science fiction. I love science fiction. Why do I love science fiction? When I was a teenager, I used to go to my public library and I used to just read, fairy tale books. And then I had one young man from my community, and he was a science fiction, kind of person. And he challenged me. He said, "Why don't you read the science fiction?" And I was like, "No, I don't think I'm not gonna like it." And he said, "No, I guarantee you're gonna love this book." And that book was Journey to the Center of the Earth. And after I read that book, wow, I was hooked on this kind of, because the story was just so well written, just, and I've read that book with kids now and I've shared it and I've read other books, but it's I think one of the great books for me. So I can remember, not even imagine, I can remember reading that book. I can remember the feeling it gave me that I didn't want to put it down. I would just sit in a corner reading until I got to the end. And if I was going to write a book like that, I know I would have to sit for a long time to plan it because I think you need to be really skillful to be able to create these kind of characters, to create this kind of world, to create the believable story, and to get kids into this kind of way of thinking in the science fiction way. So yeah, that's my thinking about science fiction. Okay, I see in the chat. Drama and mystery, adventure, yeah. Sonny said skill tool books, comedy, psychology. Okay. So what is your favorite genre? Anyone wants to share? Turn their microphones on and share. Just turn your microphone on and okay, Edgar, you want to share?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My favorite genre is for sure adventure, and I like adventure because I like to travel, um, and I like having like personal adventures, and I like the unpredictability of life, and so I like writing about adventure because it's something that I live, I think like, for example, coming to work in China is an adventure, right? It's such a part of the world that's so different to where I come from. I come from Canada, and, it's, very different. Uh, and you always have adventures, even if you are not searching for them.
Mm.
And my favorite books are adventure books. Anything that has all that the plot diagram that you shared, but in some kind of like either science fiction environment, or some kind of maybe like other dimension, or even just like a historical novel. But I don't like, for example, adventure stories that are kind of abstract and kind of difficult to follow. Like I like them to be just like clear, like something like what you said about the elevator pitch, like telling you like what's happening all the time clearly. Um, so yeah, that's my
Okay.
favorite.
So when you write, what is your writing style? What do you write? What kind of books do you write?
So I've only written one book.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't published it. It's ready. I haven't published it yet. I hope to publish it in like 2 months. And it's an adventure story that
Okay.
happens in kind of like the Earth and another dimension. So
Mm-hmm.
it could kind of be like science fiction kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's basically like a mayhem that happens to the protagonists. And it's also like very biographical. Like every character is like a bit of me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
As you were saying earlier, when you do the brainstorming or the brain dumping, You have to remember, okay, this happened to me, or this happened to this other person, or I read about this, or like you have to like gather all your experiences that where there's a lot of emotion and like put it in the change the names, change
Yeah.
change the sense, but has to come from a place of feeling, right? And so like I was a little scared because like at first because it's like you make yourself vulnerable when you write and people will see into your soul, right? And see parts of you that that nobody knows or you thought nobody knew. And so I'm really new at this. So I haven't published as I said, so I don't know what comes after that.
Yeah, it's a so yes, so so that part you were talking about with it reminded me of this other book by the Chinese writer, the three-body problem. It's in this different worlds. He's the one that wrote After Earth. Yeah, so there are different kinds of stories, but it's there are people there. So your audience would be people who love science fiction, and they have read enough of this kind of genre to know what they want from your book, to what they're looking for, basically. So that's why your target audience is also very important. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else wants to share?
I want to share something. Hello.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, go ahead.
Because I'm in charge of the company's marketing the department, so sometimes I need to fix modify some articles and need to write something. But as some I find we will share the company's some of the new products, the news, and the WeChat. We have WeChat account and the little red book and some social media. And every time after we post the news, we will check how many people read it. But I find if this time the articles the title the article name is attract people's eyes, then the news will be read by more people. Yes, yes. But if the title is, is normal, just normal, then I find no, it's is most time is the title I think is also important.
Yes, yes, you're right. Yeah, when you write your book, so after you've gone through the pre-writing and everything and you have the manuscript, it's a time when you need to sit down and think, what am I going to call the book? That's very important. You can decide on the name at the beginning or at the end, but you're right. You need to give it a name that will attract the audience that you want to attract. Because there's one workshop I went to and they said, we do not write a book for everybody. Not everybody's going to read your book, but you have a specific group of people that you want to read that. You're targeting these people. So you have to grab their attention. So yes, Sonny, you are right. The title is also very important. It needs to be catchy, needs to be short, and even the color and font you use on the cover of the book is also important. So Edgar was saying, what's next? So these are some of the things you will have to start looking into when you're ready to publish the book. You have to now think, what is going to be the art on the cover? What is going to be the font you're going to use? What's going to be the title? How are the words going to look? What kind of shape you're going to have for the book? Are you going to make it into paperback, hardcover? So all these things too, because they say that you don't judge a book by its cover, but actually we do. You do judge a book by its cover. Yeah. So yes, Sonny, you're right. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to share their Jenny, would you like to share your favorite genre?
Oh, Nadine, like you, I grew up reading. I was always in the parish library reading books. I fell in love with reading at a very, very young age, and I developed this vivid imagination. My favorite genre is suspense and mystery. I love James Patterson, Nora Roberts. Those are my authors because they have a way of the plot is just their plots are just so complex but captivating. I wish I could write like that. You know, they leave me, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? I really enjoy their books, and I continue to write, not in that genre though, but definitely mystery, suspense, drama. That's my genre, and I absolutely love how they structure their plot, and the characters is really, really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and a lot of us read, I think, books at school, novels. One that stood out for me was The Old Man and the Sea. It was really a hard novel when we read it, but years later, looking back, you know, the craft and everything of writing such a book. So we all have come across different books that have inspired us. Nowadays, I know a lot of people are reading, you know, these thought leaders. You know, you're reading a lot of books that are giving you ideas about how to live your life. You know, so the Eckhart Tolle, all these other people who are giving you these ways. And those books are also good. And a lot of people, I've said to myself, I also want to write a book that can become a thought leader book that is, you know, giving people this wisdom and all of that. So yeah. So when you think of that, it's good because the books we love are kind of the books that encourage us to love writing and to want to be writers. And so, yeah. But even though you love those books, you know that you still have to create your own. You can't just copy from their style. You need to create your own area of writing. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we have a picture here, and I want everyone to imagine yourself in this area. So if you had this as a backdrop for a story, think about this setting. Have you ever been in a setting like this? What does it remind you of? If you were in this setting, what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? Why are you here? So why did you end up in this story? So you are a character. You can be a character now in this story. It could be that you visited the area. It could be that you got lost. It could be that it was a news story you were watching. How did you end up here in the story? So I want people to imagine this scenario of a story. You can have your characters. You can have your incident. What is happening? It looks calm and peaceful. What is happening there? I want people to just think and give me some ideas. You can jot down your ideas, and I want as many people to share. It's good when we share, good when we, you know, we give our ideas. Think of first impressions. And what are your first impressions? Edgar, what are your first impressions? The mightiness of the mountains, yes. Yeah. For me, if I'm in this setting, I'm thinking, wow, yeah, the mountains are very mighty. I'm thinking it's cold, probably cold. I'm thinking that if I'm here, maybe, you know, we're a group of mountain climbers. People like to challenge themselves to climb these mountains. And maybe we got lost somewhere, you know, off our trail, and we are here and we're far away. We don't have, our phones don't have any signal. And this is our problem. How can we get back to? We have lost some of our equipment, some of our crew, and you know we are trying to meet each other again. So this is my impression when I looked at it. You know, what are some stories that this could be the backdrop for? What are some stories that this could be the back? Yes, lonely. My last adventure. I like that one. My last adventure. So Ishioma, could you share a little bit more? Give us some ideas of why this is your last adventure. Could you turn your microphone on and share, please?
Oh, okay. Well, for me, I just see not just the mountain, I see the forest beside it. So it's like for if I was to write with this picture as my backdrop, it would be my last adventure. Like maybe lost or like I wouldn't try it again because it's just like just in a scene where the mountains are there and the forest is there.
And how do you think you would get out if you had to figure a way to get out? How could you get yourself or your characters out?
How could we get out of this? Maybe we'll get to find a map. But then
Okay.
which will have gone maybe up the mountain and down, and we could just I'm not going on a trip again. Like that's like my last
Yeah, oh, you're
adventure.
saying you finish. Okay, you finish and you finally got out and you're like, never again. I'll never
Yes.
do this. Yeah, okay. Yes, I understand. Yeah, so it's like an ordeal. So the mountain presents an ordeal and you went through this ordeal and you're saying never again. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I like that one. Yeah, anybody else wants to share? You see this and
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
this reminds me of the movie The Mountain Between Us with Idris Elba and Kate Winslet when the plane crashed in the mountain and they had to undergo a lot of stuff. But I like what Ishima said about my last adventure. I don't like cold. I don't like being cold. So
Yeah.
this mountain, I would not be found in this kind of place. But it's really interesting how, our perspectives, and that this is where our ideas begin to flow and begin to write based on our different perspectives.
Yes. Anybody else? What do you see? I mean, some people who are from these parts could just be using their little boats on this place, and it could just be normal for them to, go out and just go back home. They could be living close by and they take a little trip down the river and they or the lake and then they just go back home. People do what they call, ice fishing, all these things. So yeah, for them it could just be a normal day. Yeah, the mountains are challenging you. Yes. Come up to there. Yeah. So when we see that, we always think it's a challenge. So the mountains are so impressive that we think that, yeah, this must be a challenge for us. Now, Edgar, you're from Canada, and I know in Canada they have some mighty kind of mountains like these. Yeah. So for some people, it's just seeing it in the background. It doesn't pose a threat. Yes, Edgar.
Yeah, but like the infrastructure around all the mountains in Canada, so there's no way you can have an adventure there. There's like, what do you call those park rangers, and it's not like, I mean, obviously it's you have to follow like you have to be prudent and not go into certain areas by yourself, but they're very visited. But like so I don't really have like an experience of being in mountains like this outside of like tourist infrastructure. I know that some people here in China, they go to some like very tall mountains just like these ones, and they do like I don't know, like a marathon or something over the mountains, like very high mountains. um and there are like I don't know, to me it's like I look at this picture and I think of mystery, of conquest, right? You want to like, if you want to at least conquer part of the mountain or go up some height at the minimum, try to get a nice view. And
Get to the top. Yeah.
for me, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying people want to get to the top.
Well, get to go somewhere at least, maybe you can get to the top. But for me, like because I only written one book, as like I didn't really know what the plot was or what the characters were. I just somebody told me just start because it's the first time you're doing it, right?
Mm.
So I just started, and kind of like the book kind of wrote itself. So I don't know if like that's because of the way I'm wired or what, but like for me, like the story would develop like step by like one step, this happened, then that happens, then that happens. I never see like the
Big
big
picture.
picture. I wish I did, but I never like see the big picture. Like for example, I see like adventure climbing, and then if I were to start writing about, okay, I'm gonna climb, then something else would pop up in my head. Then like maybe I see like some kind of like beautiful woman who appears with a gown, and she's like glowing, and she's not like, she has no winter clothes, and then she's like beckoning me to like to to come towards her, and then I get there, and then she appears somewhere else and beckon, like something like that would occur to me like in the moment, I don't know, like if that's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah, but the thing is, different. There are two kinds of writing style, actually, they say. So there are the people who plan everything. You plan everything and then you write. And there are also the people who just start writing. So the people have different styles. So just today I was reading an article and they were talking about procrastinators and precrastinators. And they were like, yeah, there's a thing called precrastinators. So they were like, the precrastinators are the people who you get everything and you finish it 3 months before. So you have everything and you're so this guy was saying, he's so nervous about everything. So when he got his assignment at university, he would finish it a month before it was due because he knew it was whatever, and he'd finish and he would be, because he couldn't sleep until he was finished. Whereas you had these people who are the procrastinators who would take their time and then 4 or 5 days before they would finish it. And then you have the people who are the adrenaline junkies who just do it the night before. They are driven by adrenaline and they just, so it depends on how people are wired. Yeah, some people not, but the reason why they say have a plan is because it helps to kind of maybe get it into a better book, because then you can start to see. So even if you don't follow the plan, it's good to, have an idea of where you want it to go, kind of. So that's why I started with the triangle method, and I only came up with my main idea, and then I had my what and my why, but all the other things I didn't fill in until actually when I finished all the poetry. Then I thought, okay, then I can put it here, put it here, put it here. But the whole thing didn't go together. So my first book was like your first book. It was more of just the flow. I just wrote it as it came along. But my second book, I was very intentional. Every day I gave myself a writing prompt and I wrote based on that. And so this book is, I guess, more organized in the thoughts and things like that, because I learned now that maybe I need more structure then to the writing. Yeah. So for Winifred is saying that it reminds me of walking along the canal in Jamaica and looking over the trees and the mountains in the distance and wondering about the snow on the Blue Mountains, because we used to hear that it snowed there. Yes, yes. Yes, I have a few friends who went into the Blue Mountain and they were freezing. So yeah. So yeah, you can think of that even though you are on this side, you are still thinking, oh, the Blue Mountain is up there and there's a little bit of snow on the Blue Mountain. So nice one, Winifred. So anybody else? So just like Edgar was saying, how many people have written a book, and did you have a structure the first time you did it? I want people to share. So this is Mervale. Anybody else? Lucille, Phil, have you guys written books, and have you written or published anything? Did you follow a structured path, or did you just start and begin writing? What has been your experience? So can people share in the chat? Yeah, we'd love for you to share and to say what's resonating with you as you're listening. Okay, so this one, the reason I put it there is because we can either be a visual person or we can just be an ideas person. So seeing a picture can help us to write and give us ideas about what we want to write. Hearing something. So for me, if I hear, the sound of the river, if I hear the sound of water, if I hear birds, that is actually helping my mind to think more, and I can write. So some people say they go and they sit near a place where there's water because that it helps them. Some people go on a walking meditation and they get good ideas. Some people it's through their dreams. Some people it's through their morning writing. So how do you get your ideas for writing? So we have one more person here. I'm a beginner. Yeah, but what's your style, Merville? So what kind of books are you interested in? What kind of writing do you want to do? Do you want to see yourself as a published writer? Yeah. So tell us a little bit more. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Okay. So yeah,
I share something.
yes, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. For me, just I didn't start to write something my own, my own book or something. I just for my work, I needed
Okay.
an article.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, sometimes I use the Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if for example, if I needed to write an article, I will if I don't have time, I will use ChatGPT. Let ChatGPT write the draft,
Mm-hmm.
post edition. Then I will add my company own the content. Then together, then will be article quickly. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but it's just for work.
Mm-hmm.
During my daily life, I have my own social media accounts. Just send the short video and the short the sentence, but I didn't write before. I think several years ago, I have my own the WeChat account. Then
Mm-hmm.
once week I will wrote a article
Mm-hmm.
will post by my own account, but I didn't keep it. Then I didn't keep it. So just several years ago, I posted I think maybe more than ten articles. Then I can keep it. Maybe I'm busy or something, and then I stop. And I closed the own the account. Before I try to have my own channel and playing the once week and to post an article, but I can't keep it, then stop it. Yeah, but I really
Oh.
really
Mm-hmm.
like I really like writing. Sometimes just for my work, I feel I can focus on it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because I like it. So sometimes if I write the company news, I feel I'm happy because I focus and the work can attract me. So I think I like it. Yes.
So do you want to go back to writing then? Because it's something you can just get a notebook or use your phone. I use my phone and I
Yeah.
just use a notebook on my phone and I just write for myself. So you
Yeah.
can start by just writing for yourself about anything. I have friends who are, one of my friends is doing a blog about
Mm-hmm.
everything. So if she visits a restaurant, she writes something about the food she was eating there. If she traveled to some place, she writes about her travels.
Yeah.
She writes about her cat, her dog, or everything. She just makes into writing, and it's very interesting. So if you have that passion for writing and your company's writing is not, it's not giving you so much purpose to write,
Yeah.
you can start writing for yourself. You don't have to
Yeah.
publish that first. Just write. It makes you feel good. And when you're ready to publish it, you can go back and publish it.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I agree. So
Yeah.
so tonight the class is so good for me, because
Mhm.
because before I stop it, but now because from your class, I feel your class encouraging me to do the thing again. Yeah,
I'm happy to
yeah,
hear.
you say right. If I don't have time, I can use the lunch time and
Mhm.
just write the short
Short. Yeah.
and publish by my like the China the little red book, you know,
Hmm.
maybe about eating some food you like and
Yeah. You're
uh,
feeling, you're traveling. Yeah.
yeah, you encouraging me. Yeah, I think if I did a little, not just write book, it's a big thing for me,
No, just
But
a little.
yeah, but it's just a little the writing, little yeah, I think I can do it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So every writing doesn't, because I said to people last year when as a teacher, I was very, very busy. I was teaching grade 5, they're the graduating class. I didn't really have time, but I said to myself, every day after school, I was going to give myself a writing prompt that I made up, and I was going to use it to write a poem. And I used that, and I had this thing for 30 days. And I wrote every single day, and I just wrote a little poem. And when I finished it, it was very beautiful. It was very nice. And I said, okay, I think I want to publish it. And so I sent it off to someone who I know is a really good poet. They read it and they were like, okay, we can see so much in this. I think you should really publish your book. And so, yeah. So this is what I'm saying. You don't really know where it's going to take you, but if you're inspired, just start writing and keep writing. Yeah, that's the way to go. Okay, so I see some people in the chat saying, okay, you stink at poetry. Well, yeah, I know. Poetry is, yeah. Poetry for some people is not good. But we say we can't write poetry, but I've seen so many people who said they couldn't write poems and then they did really, really well. See, Winifred was saying, I published my adventures in Jamaica. It was structured as I wanted to teach my students about Jamaica in the form of a story, as this is more interesting than just teaching facts. Yeah, very good. I also have an anthology of poems about Jamaica, which has 84 poems. This was inspired by Jamaica's 62nd anniversary and my mother's 84th birthday. Yeah. So for Winifred, poetry is her way and storytelling, and she's using stories that resonate with her homeland, things like that. And so the poetry comes naturally, even though, it seems like, but I'm sure she just wrote from her heart because it was about a celebration for her mother's birthday and for Jamaica's independence. And that made the poetry just came naturally. So maybe Edgar, one day, you will find these words, poetic words too. Yeah, so thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah, we know that you don't have to, yeah, you don't have to. For me, it's hard to write a novel. I'm thinking about writing a novel, and it's really difficult because that's not my area. So when I write poetry, it comes really easily. But now I've almost finished with one nonfiction book, like a memoir. I'm finished with that. That's not difficult for me to write a memoir. But I'm thinking of writing other kinds of books. And it's different because now I start with just writing a short story. So I'm doing a set of short stories, and then from my short stories, hopefully I can develop into novel writing. So yeah, we take baby steps. We learn the craft. Yeah, if you're going to write a novel, sure, you need to learn how to write a novel. If you're going to write poetry, you need to learn different forms of poetry. If you're going to write articles, there's also another way to write articles. So we have to figure out what kind of writing we want to do and then learn more about it, learn about the structure. Okay. So the next thing I wanted to say, let's get in groups, but I think I'm going to just say this one. Describe a day in your favorite book. So again, your favorite book kind of tells who you are and what you like. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? So describe a day in your favorite book. Can you remember a book that I would speak about? There are so many books that I love and I've read that sometimes it's hard to choose a favorite one, You're thinking, is it this one? Is it this one? Is it this one? Yeah, but think about a day in your favorite book. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What does it sound like? Again, the structure is when you think of a book, when you read it, how were the chapters? How were the characters? If you even look at a book like Alice in Wonderland, all these books, they had a structure to it. You think the writer was just telling the story, but if you really look at it clearly, there was a structure. They were taking you somewhere. They took you from the beginning, they took you to the middle, they took you to the end, and they probably had you on a roller coaster. So when I teach kids writing, I say, you're on a roller coaster. You go up, you go down, you go back up, you go back down again. And sometimes your book is like that, a roller coaster ride. Okay? So I want you to think of a day in one of your favorite book and describe this roller coaster that this writer took you on? Anyone wants to share? Phil and others, are you a writer? Are you Lucille? Have you written books? Have you written articles? Anybody else wants to share? Anybody else wants to share? So your favorite book, so I went to the next page, but I go back. Yeah, the reason why we talk about this is because we can see this writer's style, you know, and when you read other writers and you can see their style, it gives you a window into what you can develop, okay? So I read a lot of this Nigerian writer Chimamanda, and Chimamanda, she had several books, and her book, her last book she wrote was called before now she had another book was called Americana. And in Americana, what I loved was how she described the setting. So when she went to university in the US, the way she just talked about, you know, being in the city, and you could hear, you could feel, you could sense everything about the city that she went to, because I guess it was so different and so new for her that it made me think of when I went to university in England and I lived in Cambridge, that I could see, I could sense everything was so different and so new, and the feeling was so different that it became a part of you. So just like you were talking about, Edgar, you come to China and you everything is more vivid because it's different from where you came from. So the sounds are different, the people are different, the food is different. And so that is something that stands out in your mind. So as a writer, this is what you bring to people. How do you bring this image to them? I went to listen to another writer, and he said every city he went to, he knew when he was in the city by the smell of the city. So when he was in Mumbai, he knew he was in Mumbai in India. When he was in Osaka, Japan, he knew, because there's just a feel of the place and of the city everywhere you go. So writers give you that description of the place. They make you, they put you in the story. So for me, I always prefer to read the book than to watch the movie, because I can imagine so many things when I'm reading the book. I can see it in my mind's eye. And that's what a good writer does. How do you bring the images and you get the reader into it and you make them feel it? So they have to feel it. They have to hear the sounds. They have to know it, because this is how you know that your story is compelling. Okay, so let me see what's in the chat.
I just posted some stuff because as writers, we have to build up resilience. We have to know, we have to keep at it. Even when we don't feel like our books are worthy to be read, building up resilience and moving forward is very important. And our upcoming event, and we're going to close off in a few minutes, but we just want our writers to know that they have the support. They can reach out to us. They can start writing or continue writing, continue their journey. Yeah, because writing is a journey.
Yeah, and Winifred says she remembers Animal Farm by George Orwell, and she read it in high school. A lot of changes were taking place in different countries across the world. What I like was how we use language to describe the experience of the animals and their hopes. It was exactly what people were experiencing. Yes, the experience of having new leaders and what was happening. Yeah, so books represent so much for us that even you read it so many years and you still have this idea in your mind. Yeah, for me, it was The Alchemist as well. Just the way I could see the hero's journey in this person and how he went from being there, and when he traveled and he went back to his own city and what happened, that you're looking for the treasure was right where you were. And at the end, the whole thing, when they interviewed Paulo Coelho, he was like, I didn't even think of these things when I was writing it, but I just wanted the hero to go through these things, and everybody got the idea. So yes, so I want to wrap up and just to say, writing create new habits. So for you to write, you need to write every day. Do a little bit at a time. You can create your own style, of course. You can be a procrastinator, but the whole point is you are coming up with something that gets you to write. And that's the most important thing. Be intentional. And keep a writing journal no matter what. Keep something where every day you're putting something in it. And practice daily, get the ideas in. Doesn't matter wrong or right, just have some ideas, get them in. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that one of the ideas will stick with you, whether you want to use the triangle, whether you want to use the golden strings chords, or whether you want to use a spider, but have a plan, think about it, and keep writing. It will, I'm sure it will take you somewhere. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And
it's really helpful. So will you continue to open this kind of class online?
We will for as long as we can. We will see. Maybe we can do another one. Yes. So
Okay.
if there are topics or area you want us to discuss, you can also tell us. So you can put in the chat some of the things you want us to talk about. If people are, so we would like to hear your feedback from the other people who are here. So like Rosalie, Phil, we've heard from Winifred, Ishioma. So anybody else, if you want to, say something, you want to say what has resonated with you, you can give us your feedback. Just put it in the chat, and then we can, we'll go from there.
Sunny, we also have our communities on WeChat that you can become a part of, and you can access other resources. Yes. So you have support. We are here to support you on your writing journey.
Thank you. Thank you. You're so sweet.
Okay. Well, I turn over to you, Jennifer.
Yes. Do we have any other questions at this time? Thank you, Nadine. This was so insightful. And we have so much more because this is just the beginning. Writing is indeed a journey. And we have to ensure that our why is powerful, and that this will guide us as we continue to write. So thank you so very much. And we hope to have another one that you'll be able to join in and practice your writing as well. We have our communities, of course, where you can join and gain support and motivation to continue to write. Thank you so much. At this time, do we have any other questions? Anything else? Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, guys. Edgar, Sunny, Phil, Rosalind, Winifred, thank you so much. Merville, thank you for coming on tonight and being with us. Join us another time in our Writer's Core. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.